Greetings, good citizens. Oh, the prologue. Now, our story today...
Who came on then? Who came on?
Paul. Bringing back the sunshine, the lost episode of Morecambe and Wise that was rediscovered and will be broadcast later this month. Earlier this year, we brought you the news that a film charity in Leicester had discovered 2 previously unseen episodes of Doctor Who. That was from the 1960s.
Done it again, this time recovering a lost show recorded by the comedy duo Morecambe and Wise.
And welcome to From the Archive, a British television vlog. My name is Greg Bakken. You know, one of the things that I absolutely love about British television releases is that they do not shy away from incorporating material that is considered to be, I guess, unacceptable, or to take the time and quite frankly, create restoration methods that allows these wonderful gems, these pieces of television to go out and looking in a way that it hadn't looked since broadcast. And it's pretty incredible. And I absolutely love that about this. So just a few years ago, only one episode existed from Series 1. But now with this release that we're going to be talking about today, this Morecambe and Wise release, we have 3 episodes that survived and had the chroma dot recovery process applied to them. Plus, they did the best they could with a 4th episode that we're going to be talking about today that was found in Nigeria in 2012 that is in pure advanced state of decay. But we're talking more about this.
I came home and I found you like this.
Yes, that's me. That's me.
Then another time I came home and I found you like this.
Oh, yes, that's me as well.
You never did a thing.
That's definitely me. However, I remember once I used to go like this.
Yeah, please.
Steady now.
Now, we're going to talk about all this in a second, but that is 4 episodes of Series 1 that was found, and then this set includes a further episode that was from 1970 that actually had been in the company of the son of Eric Morecambe, Gary Morecambe. For years, he didn't know about it. It was returned, and it was just shown last Christmas on, I think, BBC Two or whatever. So, you know, it's one of those things that suddenly we have this great, wonderful release, and that's just scratching the surface of it. There's so much to talk about with this release. Now, if you're watching this, I probably don't need to explain who Morecambe and Wise is. I mean, Morecambe and Wise is truly one of the great double acts of comedy. And I don't want to say of British television, because I think that's insulting in a sense, because they do go beyond that. They've been on the Ed Sullivan Show. They've been their stuff has been over in the U.S., around the world. And certainly, you know, obviously the UK had been where they had the most success, but there's something about them that is timeless, and that a showing of a Morecambe and Wise episode, especially say last Christmas, the 1970 Christmas special, that's something very special still to a lot of people, and that's really exciting to see. You know, they basically owned the airwaves from basically from 1961 onward, and so there's a lot of different Morecambe Wise releases out there currently. Just first of all, going back to some of the earliest television, and this is Two of a Kind, and this is the ATV television series. Basically, what they have, it started in 1961. The stuff that's on this release starts in 1962. Everything else before that, I believe, is gone. Just how it goes. But, this is truly also a time capsule, because you're going to get not only their programs, but you're also going to get all of the wonderful music acts that appear in there, including the Beatles. But there's so much more. This is such a wonderful release of looking at just a time period, and so many people really look at, I think, as far as I'm concerned, look at the BBC series as being kind of definitive, at least the early ones being definitive. Morecambe and Wise, these are pretty good. I really do enjoy these quite a bit. And then so this in 1961 to 1968, 1962 though for what's on here, and then we move on to, and the way I have this, probably it's all going to fall out. Nope, there we go. Then we have the BBC years. Normally this is up behind me, but we finally get to take it down. And this is really so much of their output. And, currently everything that we're talking about today on the current release takes up one part of one disc, the first disc. Now we can really fill in the gaps quite a bit on this. But, I don't know. There's a lot of this I haven't watched, to be perfectly honest. But at the same time, it's once again that wonderful time capsule of Morecambe and Wise, that you could really delve into this, and you can see some wonderful musical acts from the late 60s through the mid to later 70s. And there's just a lot to take in. And sometimes it's a lot to watch. And so there's a lot of this that I haven't looked at. I'm looking, like over here I have the two Ronnies, the big bulky two Ronnie set as well. As you can imagine, I haven't watched all those either. But when I do watch, there's always something to smile about with both of them. So the BBC Morecambe and Wise ran from 1968 to 1977, and Morecambe and Wise then left the BBC to go to ITV. And if you ever watched the Tales of Television Center, it's talked about there by one of the designers about how the Morecambe and Wise had a great big party after they wrapped their final episodes, and that they had secretly signed with ITV, but the BBC didn't know that yet. I'm assuming that's true. I mean, there was a lot of very gossipy sort of stories in that, but I mean, he was there. He should know.
They were coming to the end of their BBC contract, and the BBC wanted to woo them to come and sign another contract, so they threw them a very nice party in the hallowed 6th-floor suite. To this day, I remember Eric saying, "Just enjoy yourselves tonight, boys," he said, "because we've already signed with Thames Television." So we knew before the BBC bigwigs.
But that's where you have the ITV, actually Thames television series, which ran for 4 series over at Thames. And this is a newish release by Network. And the thing about this is that this was actually only 2, and I actually have one over here, because why get rid of anything, right? We have 2... we had 2 series, I think, that came out through Network. This is the first one. I don't think I ever could find the second one, or it never came out. Maybe I'm just, forgetting. That happens. But finally, we have all 4 series in one release, and I'm really happy about this. I'm happy to have this. It's nice to have kind of all the encompassing episodes of Morecambe and Wise. I'm a collector, of course, as well, so it's kind of hard to ignore that. So we have that. But then this in 2022, and I meant to make this video in 2022. That's how far behind I am on stuff. this gem came out, and this is Morecambe and Wise, The Lost Tapes. Now, it just to say, to kind of close the loop on this Thames series ran from 78 to 83, and sadly Eric Morecambe passed away in 1984. And what happens is that Ernie Wise, Morecambe and Wise, right, retired. Like, he doesn't have his partner anymore, so he retired. And that is the end of that wonderful chapter of comedy. But as what I'm trying to get to here is that it might be the end of new stuff, but they keep going. They keep, like, kind of like Laurel and Hardy in the sense of not styles of comedy a little bit, but the fact that they're timeless. They keep going. New stuff keeps coming out. When, there's a lot of material that gets found for the BBC, ITV, whatever. And we don't always see all that material that comes out. But something like this, Morecambe and Wise, The Lost Tapes, this is something very different. And this is something that I really can't wait. So what this release is, and this release is complex, okay? This release is one of the sort of things that us archive television collectors just absolutely love. And I don't think you need to be a fan of Morecambe and Wise to be able to completely need to own this, especially if you're a fan of television restoration, a fan of, all sorts of restoration is put into this release, from chroma dot recovery to vidfire to audio restoration, and also x-raying film prints. What? That's what's great about this thing. That's what's great about this. This release has basically puts all of season 1 onto a disc. Now, 4 episodes exist visually in some form on here. 4 episodes exist in audio form on here. And it is, with that, as well as the 1970 collection, the 1970 Christmas episode that Gary Morecambe had in his collection, plus other audio rarities. This is really, really something special. And previously, the only thing that was on this release from season 1 was episode 6. Episode 6 from series 1 is sort of truncated, a little edited. We're going to talk about that in a minute. That was returned by a gentleman by the name of Tim Disney.
For some people, their obsession with viewing old television leads them to collecting. Tim Disney recently stumbled upon his greatest find to date.
Really was my favourite find. It was quite surprising the way I found the Morecambe and Wise show. Really, for somebody who's actually interested in missing television, it was one that sort of crept up on me. I bought the film print from a collector via eBay, and I was thinking this would be one of the ATV shows. Morecambe and Wise did quite a few years run for Blue Grade and ATV. And I thought it would be nice to have this in the collection, just as another additional piece of bread and butter film collecting. Received the print from the collector, went to thread the film up for viewing, and realised that the leader on the beginning of the film said a BBC television film. And the list of guests that appeared on the show confirmed that this was indeed a missing episode. That for me, I would say today has probably been the most exciting find, purely because of the content. Morecambe and Wise are so loved, and just to get this film print back again was superb. It smells lovely as well.
That's the episode 6 of series 1 of Morecambe and Wise. But that was all that was on this set for series 1. That's all that existed. And of course, at the point that this all came out originally, it wasn't going to be diving deep into archives and stuff. This was just going to be putting everything together, a collection of everything that existed in full in the archive, so that they could just put out the set. This is obviously the big set. This was also released in volumes over time. But by the time I decided to finally pull the plug on, or not pull the plug, pull the trigger, I guess, on this, they had released a nice one little package for myself. So that was really nice. Now, when this was first announced, though, I was pretty confused by what this was going to be. I think a lot of us were confused. First of all, as we're going to talk about, we knew that there was a film print from 2012 that Phillip Morris had found that was in a massive state of decay. It was really falling apart. But we also knew that work was being done to see if anything could be retrieved from this. And that really made you wonder. Obviously, there was some success, but how successful were they? And that was really very... it was really interesting to wonder what on earth is happening here, I guess. So, when they first announced it, I thought the description for the release was a little confusing. And I wasn't really sure what was being included onto the set. And I'm just going to read for you what was told to us when this release was first announced. Over 4 hours of never-before released episodes of Morecambe and Wise Show, lost for over 50 years, now available for the first time on DVD. In 1968, the BBC broadcast the very first series of Morecambe and Wise Show, one of the BBC first ever full-color comedy series. The program would run for another 9 years, quickly becoming one of the most beloved BBC television shows of all time. Sadly, none of the 8 episodes that made up Series 1 of the Morecambe and Wise Show were ever archived, and until recently they were thought lost forever. However, after more than a decade of patient archive research and restoration, the series is now available to enjoy again. 4 complete episodes have been recovered on film, with the other 4 surviving as high-quality audio-only recordings. Following extensive restoration, all 8 episodes are presented here on DVD for the first time. Also included is an extensive collection of additional special features, all previously unreleased. They include a once-lost one-off special episode from 1970, an unbroadcast 1972 studio tape, a specially shot BBC Two trailer, 2 rare 1960s BBC interviews, deleted scenes, and featurette. And I think where the confusion came from, for me at least, was, like I said, how was episode 2 going to be presented? And that was really the $1 million question, because basically, from what we knew and what we now see, it wasn't ever going to be broadcast quality. It wasn't ever going to be really all that watchable, to be honest. I guess there was some hope and confusion that some of us were hoping that perhaps that the BBC would also include on this like PDFs of the scripts, which would have been kind of nice. It's not a big deal considering this release. This release is, I know I sound like I am complaining, but I'm really trying not to sound that way, because this is truly an incredible release. But like on the Hancock half-hour releases, there were PDFs of the scripts to the missing episodes, to the Doctor Who, of course, there is. Granted, on a lot of network, not this one, I don't even know why I'm holding it when I'm talking about it, there's often a lot of scripts included as well. It would have been nice. Not a big deal, right? Not the end of the world. So, we got this. Now, let's talk about this release in general, right? This, and the reason I'm going to have to go to my notes quite a bit, because this is a complex release. This is not like we got some episodes, we did some restoration. It's a matter of knowing what episodes are on here, what episodes are in audio form, what episodes, and I always get confused by what episode was deteriorated, found in Nigeria. There's a lot of pieces to this. So Series 1, episodes 5, 6, and 7, and the October 1970 special. All of them had been shown relatively recently on BBC Two, with the exception of episode 6, which is the one that is on the original Morecambe and Wise release, and that is edited. So Phillip Morris had found 2 of the 4 episodes a few years back, and they were found as black and white prints. In fact, I was at the BFI Missing Believed Wipe that was all about Phil Morris. I can't remember if it was like August of 2018, something like that. And they had a screening of those 2 episodes, as well as like a bunch of other things that Phillip Morris had found. When they showed up that Christmas on BBC Two, they were vid-fired and colored. I had the chroma dot recovery done to it. The ones that we saw at the BFI screening were still just the black and white prints, and there was no still about it. I mean, it was pretty amazing to watch and see. Now, restoration was done by Peter Crocker, Mark, for picture and vidfire, whatever. Mark Ayres for audio, Richard Russell for the chroma dot recovery, and there's probably a lot more that I am not including on here that I should, and I do apologize. That they worked to return the color, the audio, everything else for this release. Like I said, episodes 5 and 7 were shown on BBC Two in 2018. And it's really weird about that, because I'm going to just share a story here. The whole reason I went out to the BFI screening, because I wasn't planning on doing it, trust me, I love watching this stuff, is that Phillip Morris himself invited me out to go to the BFI event. He's like, "Can you come on out? I'd like you to come out and we can talk." And I know Phil a little bit, and so I'm like, okay. And I thought maybe I could, for the podcast or for whatever else, I could interview him or whatever else. And he was out, he came out there, and it was just really interesting because when I got out there, I mean, he didn't have time to talk with me. And I get it. I mean, it was his night, first of all. So I remember wanting to talk to Phil Morris, and he was outside outside the presentation 1 area. And I was trying to talk to him. I waited for him, and he was actually talking to family members, I believe, of that were descendants of the gentleman who created Basil Brush. So, because that was one of the things that they found with Derek Folds in it. And so that was, so I just, after a while, I just kind of gave up. Because first of all, I mean, whatever, right? And I don't think that he would have really had too much to talk to me about anyway. But it was cool to see how that transpired. And it was really cool to just be out there and see that stuff, and including some of the stuff that I saw was like they had also recovered episodes of The Rag Trade. They've also recovered episode of Harry Worth, and also a 16 millimeter film print of an episode of Steptoe and Son, My Old Man's a Tory, which that episode currently, as far as home media is concerned, only exists as a Shabbatin recording, and it's the worst possible Shabbatin recording that you could possibly find. It really is not great. For the DVD release, they did, probably very minimal work to it, but they did do something to it, and it's okay. But it'd be great. I mean, it was really cool to see a film print of some of those scenes that you've only seen as very crappy video before. So that was something that I thought was really interesting to kind of see how that worked. And that was worth it just for that itself. So I want to get more into the episodes on here. And I kind of give a little bit of an overview, but one person I reached out to that I thought could be a really good resource for us to talk about these episodes and this release was the disc producer himself, Charles Norton. And Charles gave me a great deal of notes about this this release. I've kind of highlighted some of the stuff that I thought is really prevalent and don't want to bog down everybody. And maybe there's a place that I can put the rest of this. I might put it on my Patreon. Feel free to sign up and support the work that I'm doing for these videos on Patreon. It starts as low as $3 a month. It helps make these videos as well as my other series, Doctor Who, on BBC Video. You know, it would just be great. It'd be nice to get some support. Obviously, you don't need to if you just want to watch. But, you know, there's stuff that we put on, that we put into the Patreon that's exclusive as well. Some of it might be these extensive notes, but I'll tell you the stuff that I think is really stand out about these releases. Because the first question that I had asked him was about the season 6 on, the season 1, episode 6 on the original release, and also on this release as well. Because the one thing about it is that it looks like that we start the episode like it's cut, right? It's edited. So what Charles had said about that is film collector Tim Disney had acquired a copy of the film in around 2005 and then got in touch with the team at BBC to arrange its repatriation. The incomplete black and white film print was released unrestored on BBC DVD in 2007. It was also determined fairly soon after the print was returned. The episode itself should have been around 30 minutes. The print that came back was 24 minutes. And at some point after the episode's UK transmission, Charles goes on to say a single sketch from the start of the episode had been edited out, leaving us with an episode closer to 24 minutes in duration. And then sadly, no footage of this deleted sketch from episode 6 is any longer known to exist. However, a complete audio recording of the missing material still survives. This was made in about 1973 when the episode was broadcast on Network 7 in Australia. So we do sort of have the complete episode. However, part of the episode is now audio only, as the majority of the episode survived on film and is only one sketch that we were missing pictures for. Charles decided that they would include the missing audio only sketch as a deleted scene in the special feature section, and that the rest of the episode would be presented all on film as the main feature. Charles felt it would be too distracting to have an episode start on film, then have the picture vanish for several minutes before returning to film for the bulk of the episode. I have to agree with that, though that is where I did have some questions about what we're seeing, because when you look at the menus on this, you'll see like the main presentation menu that has the episodes listed, and then you'll go back into like the extras, and it will have some of the same episodes but like deleted scene or something like that. And you know, first of all, as you all know, I'm relatively like slow to the pickup, right? So there are pretty extensive like title screens that tell you what you're watching and the history behind why they're calling it what it is. It was still a little bit like I just needed some clarification, and Charles really put a lot of time and effort to give it to me. He must have seen these videos before, and he must have been like, we gotta go slow with this one. What is very different from this release to this original release simply is that color had been introduced to episode 6 on here. So, you know, for this DVD, the new color restoration of episode 6 was handled by Peter Crocker, who digitally removed all the specks, dirts, and scratches on the film wherever possible, stabilized the picture, graded and adjusted all the color recovery output, and generally made the episode look as good as he possibly could. That's kind of what he does, isn't it? The episode also went through the Vidfire interlacing process, so it, you know, restores the original video look to the episode that was lost when the episode was telerecorded. Sound restoration was handled by Mark Ayres, who worked from the film print's own optical track, as there are sadly no original tape source for the episodes anymore, as we would expect, right? So that's episode 6 on this release. And then for Series 1, Episode 2, and this is where I got confused again, because, first of all, Series 1, Episode 2, that's the one from Nigeria, found in 2012, that was deteriorating. And I mean, deteriorating is actually a kind word for this film, because it is destroyed. It is not good at all. But it's, once again, presented on here with audio. And then there is a deleted scene without audio, and this is where I was getting confused. So I asked him, Series 1, Episode 2 deleted scenes, were these on the same deteriorated print that was found in Nigeria? Was the unedited print sent abroad to stations, but you needed to present it this way because the audio that exists from the BBC One repeat, or do I have that all wrong? Because it's kind of confusing to me. Charles kindly responds, first we had the beautifully restored audio soundtrack on the episode that was put together by Mark Ayres using 2 off-air audio recordings that had been made domestically in the 60s and 70s. He had 1 audio recording from the episode from its 1969 BBC One repeat. I think I have that one. And then this one I didn't know about. And there was another audio recording made in 1973 when the episode was broadcast on Network 7 in Australia. The BBC One recording was complete, bar the first minute of the episode. Okay. The Network 7 recording was complete for the first few minutes, but had lots of bits missing later on. Mark combined the best bits of both to piece the final restoration together using a section of the original telerecording to make sure that the final audio played back at exactly the same speed that it did on the original 1968 transmission. So this is what Charles believes has happened. Why you have, for this episode 2, you have this scene that doesn't have audio on the audio recordings that were recorded off air, but it exists on this film print. Okay, I'll try to make it somewhat clear. So on the 22nd of June 1968, the cast and crew assembled in TC6 at Television Center to shoot the first episode of of the Morecambe and Wise Show. The episode was shot over the course of that evening and seems to have gone to plan. The result of that evening's shoot was a single-color videotape master. This, in theory, would have been the episode broadcast master. At some point in June or July, the BBC Enterprises made a black and white film recording of that video master. Okay, and it is this is the decayed black and white copy that they now have to work from. But this is where Charles says this is where it gets interesting. At some point between late June 1968 and late August 1968, some decisions appear to have been made by the Morecambe and Wise production team. Firstly, it was decided that the episode recorded on the 22nd of June would not be broadcast as episode 1. After all, instead, it would be held back a week and would be broadcast as episode 2. The next episode to be recorded, which would be episode 2, went into the studio on the 29th of June, and this became the new episode 1. So it's the second episode recorded, but it's going to be the first one broadcast, okay? The episode shot on the 22nd of June began with a special introductory scene featuring Eric and Ernie, which sort of launched the new series. It's kind of a pre-title sequence. As this episode is now to be episode 2, the scene was removed from the master tape of the 22nd of June and was added onto the front of the 29th of June episode that would now be going out first. There is a cryptic scribbled note on the camera script for the 29th June episode that sort of backs this up. In fact, there's a lot of scribbled notes on that camera script, which also reinforces the idea that the changes that were being made all over the place throughout production and post-production. What happens next is partly supposition on Charles' part, but he thinks it makes sense, and, I think he's right. Now, we know that they had to slightly re-edit the master tape of the 22nd June episode to remove the first little intro segment and add it to the 29th June episode. What if that wasn't the only editing they did? The 22nd June episode was rather overlong, and there was a sketch towards the end of the show that was clearly not working as well as they hoped. So what Charles think they did was cut a few sections out to bring the overall episode runtime down a bit and also improve the pacing on the less successful sketch. They edit out 2 chunks, as far as he can tell, only one of which featured significant amount of dialogue, as you can see here. And if you listen to the episode audio, you can sort of tell as the sketch does end rather abruptly. The new shorter edit of this episode was broadcast as episode 2 on the 9th of September. However, the black and white film master that the BBC Enterprises had for this episode had been made before that re-edit. Remember, we talked about that. And so there was at least one copy of the episode knocking about that still contained the original extra material, and that's the copy we got on film today. You know what's really funny about this? At the time of recording this, I had just released an episode of Doctor Who on BBC Video, and you're all like, what does this have to do with Morecambe and Wise? It's about Resurrection of the Daleks. It's about how another country got a version of a story that wasn't actually the right one to go out. And it feels like that this could possibly be the case as well. Charles goes on to say, now sadly, it's not been that easy to recover audio from the decayed film print. I was surprised that they could do it at all. It's sort of possible for some sections, but it's not really listenable. In fact, it's a mess. So for those extra bits of deleted film that we have, we don't really have any audio to accompany them. The main audio source we have for this episode is a recording of January 1969 on BBC One. And by then, all of this material had been cut. So we don't have any audio from that. All we have for these extra bits are the images that we can recover from the film. Plus, of course, we've got the camera scripts, so we can also work out vaguely that the dialogue is spoken in those scenes. Isn't that interesting? I mean, that's a lot. That is a lot. Now, I asked Charles if there's anything that he wants me to really convey about this release. Now, granted, I talked to him in, what would that been, May, June, whatever, of 2022. You probably have this release now, but I think it's still worth going over. And one of the things that he said is special thanks must be extended to Peter Tatchell, who made those Australian audio recordings back in 1973, but kept his tapes for all these years. Had he not done so, and had he not come forward and allowed us to use them, we would no longer have copies of those 4 audio episodes. Now, so that's the video portion of these episodes, right? And we're going to talk a little bit about how episode 2 got any kind of had any sort of pictures taken out of them. But there's also the audio episodes as well. And so the Peter Tatchell, who did the audio recordings in Australia in 1973, he was really only interested in the Morecambe and Wise bits where they appeared in the program. He didn't care too much for any of the musical guests. So whenever musical numbers started, he would just hit pause. He wouldn't record it. And then would come back on when Eric and Ernie came back on to do their bits. So these episodes are not going to be in full. They cover all the material with Eric and Ernie, but the musical guests are now lost. And Charles had given me a list of those guests and what's missing from all of those 4 episodes. And we're going to play that right now so you can... I'm not going to read everything. You can read it. I want to definitely thank Charles Norton for a huge amount of time given to write up the information, that we didn't even go through all of it. But I will say that what he wrote was nearly 4,000 words. I mean, that was very kind of him. So thank you, Charles. Thank you very much, and I really appreciate your work on this. So, you know, the thing is, just to be clear about episode 2, is that the film stuck together. You cannot unwind it. You cannot put it onto any telescene machine and grab any imagery from it. It is all stuck together, just like the silent film Trip to the Moon. And they had, in that case, they had to painstakingly razor off the layers and then rescan them to create this version from basically a master film print. Morecambe and Wise is much further gone than that. You can't even do that. So as we talk about the extras on this set, the number one I want to kind of point attention to is that although they don't have a kind of like a little documentary on how they did it, there is a news item that talks about what they needed to do to get the episodes and what Charles had to do and how they went about and done it. And it's actually cutting apart the film print and then x-raying it and x-raying in layers and pulling out the imagery, the frames. And then what they do from there is truly remarkable. I mean, everything up to that point is truly remarkable. If I remember correctly, they pulled about 1,000 images from that film print. Now, that's nowhere near the amount to do a full episode reconstruction. But the idea that you could do that much, and there was no telesnaps for this, is pretty incredible. So this is truly, truly amazing. So inside, there isn't like a book or anything, and that's fine. You know, we get spoiled with the Andrew Pixel books. But inside here, you have something that tells you what you're going to see. And the extras themselves are pretty interesting. You know, I mean, including stuff like the Morecambe and Wise Lost episodes, the intro that has Phillip Morris and Michael Aspel in it. What I was talking about, that restoration bit, or the extracting the imagery from the film print, that's something called Click. That's on there. You can check that out. There is One Pair of Eyes from 1969, and that's where we see, and now that this footage has been also on the season 2 box set for Doctor Who, this is where you see David Whittaker. And the first time I've ever seen that footage of David Whittaker was from this release. Pretty incredible. The Morecambe and Wise Show trailer from BBC 2. It was especially shot. Series 1, Episode 4, Surviving Footage. We talked about that. The Episode 2 deleted scene. All the other episodes' audio, as we talked about as well. The Episode 6 deleted scene. And then an audio recording of the studio recording for one of the most famous, probably the most famous bit for Morecambe and Wise is the studio bit that featured Andre Previn and the piano. So that's on there. And then a Morecambe and Wise interview from 1963, which was originally recorded for the BBC Home Service. And then, if you have super good eyes, you can read the production notes on the back too. And you don't need a big book. I mean, this is great. I appreciate this. I appreciate everything about this. The cover for this release is very simple, but that's all the releases for Morecambe and Wise. You don't need anything. You just need Morecambe and Wise. There you go, Morecambe and Wise. You just need them, and it's a very pleasant looking cover. It's very easily laid out, and this says it all right here, and it sticks very much in the way the BBC has been promoting this program. So no, this looks really, really nice. As far as any sort of technical aspects to this release, it is a Region 2 and 4 DVD. Audio's English mono and includes subtitles. What do I think of this release myself? I think this is an outstanding release. I highly recommend it. It's one disc of love. The thing about this release, which I love about it, first of all, Morecambe and Wise, of course. But the thing is, too, the people who are working on this understand the importance of Morecambe and Wise to British culture, to the history of British television. The people who are working on this are the same people who are working on a lot of Doctor Who stuff. They're showing up working on some of the network releases. They're doing a lot of things, and why they're doing it is because they love these programs. There is love that is put into the work on these. This is truly a output of what love looks like for these wonderful programs. I guess that's why I love this so much myself, because this is truly a love letter from the people who restored and worked on it. It took Charles, 8 years, something like that, of working on what we got recovered for episode 2 of the Morecambe and Wise show for series 1 that we're seeing on here. I mean, that's incredible. And I'm sure everyone wishes that it looked a little bit better, but the fact of all that time put into that to do this, and they must have felt like that they were as far as they can go with it, and that's what makes this such a wonderful release. I would really recommend, even if you've never seen any Morecambe and Wise, but you're really interested and you are fans of what these people who work on those Doctor Who DVDs, Blu-rays do. Just like people will watch something with Tom Baker in it because they like Doctor Who and they want to see what he does. This is kind of the same thing. If you like the restoration that they're doing on these other titles, check out to see what they're doing here. Like I said at the beginning of this, literally every type of restoration is employed into this. And, apart from the audio restoration, which is amazing, and that Mark is doing stuff that we don't even understand, so much of this stuff was invented and created for British television to be restored. The Doctor Who stuff was top of mind for the Chroma Dot recovery, for Vidfire. Obviously, who would ever thought putting X-raying film prints on the table, but who knows, maybe there's an opportunity that to be used on Doctor Who or something someday. You never know. So that's the thing about this, that I love this release. I love everything about it. I've watched it a number of times. I've scratched my head about it a number of times. This is one that makes you think. And I would recommend getting it just so you can see the work that's done. The other thing that bums me out a little bit about this, and I totally understand. The BBC transmission for the repeats of these in 2018 and 2021 respectively for BBC Two were in HD. These were broadcast in HD. We only got these as standard def. I get it. But at the same time, I also know that network tends to put out SD material on HD. It looked great. I have HD recordings of these. So it is a little bit of a bummer that it's that we couldn't get a Blu-ray of this. I know, I don't mean to be sounding complaining, but that is something that would have been nice, I think. Would have been really cool to see. Once again, one of the things that I always like to talk about, anything that I'm working on, please check out, please support. It's important to do these. It's also important to know that people find these worthwhile to them. A number of ways you can do it. You could subscribe to this YouTube channel. I would greatly appreciate that. You could also become a Patreon member. Like I said earlier, it starts as low as $3 a month. We include a lot of things in there to kind of keep people happy. Some exclusives, And I'd really appreciate it if you could do that for me, please. If you can consider doing that. I know that it is very tough sometimes to figure out where money goes. So if you do find this to be worth your while, please do so for me. I would greatly appreciate it. And I'd just like to take a moment to thank all the Patreon members that I currently have. Without this, I would be lost. So here they are. Also, as I always do during these, I'd like to point out, as we're all archive television enthusiasts, to go and check out the TV Brain, and that's tvbrain.info. And it's a great resource for knowing what exists, what doesn't exist, for casts, everything else. It's 30 years of research done by some very dedicated people. And kind of like what I'm talking about with Patreon, it needs to be able to survive, and that's sometimes through money. It's a subscription service, but honestly, it's worth it. So please go check it out. Would really appreciate it at tvbrain.info and sign up today. And if you want to send me feedback, please do so, or any sort of thing. I mean, if you're questioning what I talked about here today because there's so much going on, or if you have anything else on your mind, please send me a note. You can get a hold of me at feedback@fromthearchive.co.uk. My Twitter is @fromthearchive, as well as facebook.com/fromthearchivemn. You can go there, check out what I'm doing. I'm also, I also do a podcast that's on iTunes. If you listen to those episodes, leave a review. If you leave a review, if you just interact with me a little bit, I might make more. That's what it comes down to, folks, is literally if I don't feel like anyone is paying attention to the work, and I understand we all have busy lives, but, if you're listening to it, if you do find it interesting, leave a review. Let me know. Let me know that if you like it, or if there's some stuff you want to do. At least I know there's a pulse out there, and that's what excites me to do more. That's why I'm doing more of the videos, the live streams, the Doctor Who stuff, because that really interests me. The podcast is a lot of work. It's a lot more work than I ever really thought it would be. But if you all like it, if you like what I'm doing, let me know. Let me know through Patreon. Let me know through reviews on iTunes. It doesn't take much, and I will do some more. And I have 2 that I could edit with Kevin McNally talking about Dad's Army, talking about Hancock's Half Hour. These are amazing interviews. And, if you want them, let me know. And leave a review on iTunes. I'd appreciate it. With that being said, once again, I highly recommend this. Check this out. Go get it. Enjoy. But for now, as I do every time we do one of these, I'm happy to say I can put it where it belongs.